The scuffle in the PDP, I mean, continues unabated. Expulsion and counter-expulsion within the party. When was the last time you heard that a party expelled and issued expulsion certificates? I mean, this is novel. This is the first time I'm hearing it. Maybe you have heard, but I've not heard about this before. What does it look like? What does that tell you?
It's the height of brigandage. It's just like somebody failed and you are giving an award of the worst student to somebody in the class. Is it to further shame him? You see, they are just stoking the ember of discord and resentment in that party. How could you? It's unheard of. Why don't you give certificate of
admission?
Loss of election.
Okay.
And I should be issuing certificate of loss of election.
Since they issue returns certificate of return.
Return to the winner.
Okay, so they should issue certificate of
loss to the loser. It's as simple as that. I don't know. Sometimes you see adults behaving like toddlers, and it gives you a kind of creeps that how can somebody behave like this? It appears that the Turaki faction is playing the game of Wike's faction.
Okay.
That's the way I see it. It is either that there is somebody or there are some people in Wike faction that have infiltrated the ranks of Turaki to further cause rancor in that party. How would you imagine that you are issuing certificate of expulsion?
Does it look childish?
It looks more childish than you can imagine, because it doesn't add up. If you have expelled somebody, let that person remain expelled. It is only when, if he resisted that expulsion, that you can now say you want to publish and shame.
Okay.
That is the extent you can go.
Will it have been proper, or more appropriate to now go to the ward, Wike's ward, those other people, their wards, and say, look, the chairman or the secretary, strike off their name from the register of members? Would that have been better?
As a matter of fact, you have just pointed to one thing. You have pointed to what is likely to be the outcome of the suit filed by Wike. Because when you want to exit a party, you go back to your ward. And if you recall that there have been politicians in the past that when they want to remove them, it is the ward.
Yes, they'll go to the ward.
They'll go to the ward to remove them. Now you went to remove somebody at the national level. Well, I've not read to that extent the constitution of PDP. But the fact still remains that for the party leaders, so-called party leaders, to have gone to this extent to say you are issuing certificate of expulsion, it shows that they didn't even study the constitution of that party very well.
Because I don't know. We were not told that expulsion letter or certificate was signed by the ward chairman and secretary, which is what it should be. Like you said, if you want, when Nasir El-Rufai, got his membership card, it was at his ward level.
Of course.
In Kaduna. When Atiku got his own membership card of the ADC, it was at his ward level. So, because that is the starting point, that's the takeoff point.
Yes.
Now,
Option A4 exposed us to see this kind of process that whatever you are, like they say, politics is local.
Okay.
So whatever you are going to be at the national level, your ward must be the bedrock.
Okay, to deepen grassroots politics so that you can start from the base.
Yes, if you are not good at home, how can you be good at this?
Maybe let's go back, we have to go back to the beginning, and discuss this extensively. Which is the authentic faction of the PDP at the moment? I would like for you to, factor in the fact that Turaki spoke from the PDP headquarters. That means they have access to that office. Does that make them the authentic faction of the PDP?
It doesn't make them the authentic faction.
So how did they get access into that place?
So they forced their way in.
Okay.
It was there, live on television.
No, that was before it was sealed.
And that's what I'm
now,
saying.
if we hear that they met at the PDP headquarters, what it means is, and we didn't hear that they broke into it, what it technically means is that they have access to it. So does that make them the authentic faction of the
till
PDP?
Today,
Okay.
INEC has not said it's recognizing Turaki, the leadership of PDP. Damagun had stepped down. So, for me, the way it is now, with the two factions in PDP, until there is validation either from INEC or from the court, there is no leadership in PDP today. And if, for instance, there will be 2 off-season elections next year,
Okay.
Adeleke
Oshun.
and Ekiti, Banji, I know that this was what Adeleke saw, that he had to abandon that ship to go to Accord. Because if he contests PDP on the ticket of PDP, in fact, his opponents should just go and sleep. Because I remember those days of Ababala's exploit. Ababala was like Michael Tyson in the ring. All his strength, he would just deploy first round, second round. He knocks you out and he takes the shield.
Afebalola, the Lego luminary.
Yes.
Okay.
He dwells so much on technicalities, not on the merit of the case.
Okay.
And that was when the likes of Latif Fagbemi, Olujimi,
Olanipeku.
you know. So this is what is going to happen. And you see, that Samfara episode is a pointer to any politician. That was why I said the other time that anybody seeing these governors jumping ship from PDP or LP, it is just obeying survivor instinct. That if anybody contests on those 2 platforms, my brother, his opponents should just go and be partying. Because the lawyers will not sweat to remove the rug off that person's feet and give it to his opponent. That's the way it is. So PDP, sometimes when they talk about external forces destabilizing their party, how can you say somebody came to your bedroom to sleep with your wife? You are saying it's an external factor. How did he come into your room? How did he even access your gate? How did he open the gate? Then your main gate is your first fortress. From your first gate to the main door to the house, and then when he breaks through the first door to the house, then he would have to navigate to your room. A stranger will not do that. So if PDP is now saying that some external factors had come to destabilize the party, who propped up this monster that is now assailing that party from left, right, and center? So for me, PDP is on a road to perdition.
Okay, road to perdition. I think the PDP crisis seems to be more complicated than we understand. Now, yesterday...
It's just the same thing as an LP.
Labour Party, yes. Now, the one of Labour Party is understandable because it wasn't like as big as the PDP. It has never been. So a lot of people felt that it could have been better managed than they did. But I think the problem in the PDP looks more complicated than we even see. Now, the National Working Committee of the party, loyal to Nyesom Wike, has appointed a new caretaker committee for the Southeast Zonal
after their Congress.
The PDP. No, not the Congress, for them to organize the Congress. Okay. Because the Congress was in dispute when Wike and Co said, look, Ali Odefa, has to step aside. And Damagun said, no, this is the authentic leadership of the PDP. So apparently, Ali Odefa had to step aside because his tenure expired alongside that of Damagun. Now, the Wike, the faction loyal to Wike, the National Working Committee, whose responsibility it is to organize all of those things.
How do we even categorize them? Maybe we should be using NWC1, NWC2,
you know, like Kwam 1 and Kwam 2 and all of that. Now, that committee has announced a new caretaker committee, you know, for the Southeast, apparently to organize the congresses sometime in the future. That announcement was made by the National Organizing Secretary, Umar Bature, who, by the way, was expelled alongside Wike and Fayose. So, what is the legitimacy of that committee as we speak?
The legitimacy had to come from the top.
Which is the top now? Because
Turaki must be legitimized.
Okay.
For that expulsion to hold.
Okay, so apparently, Omar Bature...
You should be aware that Wike's faction has also expelled some people.
Including even before Damagu left, he was expelled.
So, the legitimacy would have to come. The only reason why that expulsion will stay is for the conferment of legitimacy on either of these two, or otherwise. Otherwise, we are still hanging on the cliff. We don't know.
So it looks like the onus now rests on the Independent National Electoral Commission
or the court.
No, nobody can go to court because of the Supreme Court has said that look, the internal problem of the party
must be resolved internally.
So how do they resolve all of that?
Compromise, which is not possible.
Now, do you think like we have the eminent persons, you know, in the PDP would have two former presidents. They have two former vice presidents talking about Atiku Abubakar and Namadi Sambo. They have Goodluck Jonathan and Olusegun Obasanjo. Now, all these people
Obasanjo is no longer in PDP.
No, he is in the PDP.
He has come back to PDP?
Yes, he came back. After tearing his card, he came back to PDP.
Okay.
You know, so...
Because he said he's no longer a partisan person.
He's a member of the PDP. So, is it that, did they abdicate responsibility? Somebody like Goodluck Jonathan, did he feel betrayed by the party, and that is why he has stood aside all this while? Obasanjo, what is his problem? Why are they allowing their sweat, the party that they worked so hard to build, falter in this manner? Could you hazard a guess about all of that?
You see, my guess is that it has gotten to a point that it's like a ruffle fight. When people are engaged in ruffle fight, the elders that are wearing white will not want to be stained. If they are going to even try to mediate truth in this crisis, it could be behind the scene. For instance, look at the spat between Fayose and Obasanjo. That was when Fayose was still a member of the party, according to the expulsion certificate that has just been issued. Now, where would Obasanjo come into this? Jonathan, where would Jonathan come into this? That it will not be bloodied, because they would rather advisedly remain aloof to some extent so that they won't be sucked into the crisis. Because once they are sucked in, then the non-dimitives of the party is imminent. So I just hope that they will have a way of reaching out to the factions for the sake of that party, except they want the party to go under. Perhaps, maybe that's their agenda. But if they must allow the parties to stay afloat, they must intervene.
Now, talking about allowing the party to go under, do you think that the PDP will survive this debacle before 2027? Because the problems seem to be multiplying with each person there.
But I predicted this about 6 months ago. I said the crisis in PDP would escalate to the point that the party may not even field a candidate in 2027. And the thing is gravitating towards that now. Because as it is today, when you have two factions jostling for the soul of the party, if faction A decides to field the candidate, then faction B decides to field the candidate, who would INEC recognize? And what are the parameters for recognizing a particular faction in a party that is embroiled in this kind of crisis? So at the end of the day, they would so denigrate the party that the party may not field the candidate. And that's the signal most of these PDP governors are seeing that they are crossing to APC, running to Accord and all that. Because every politician now realizes that he or she needs a solid platform, a strong platform for it to contest without looking over his shoulder for any legal technicalities that would make nonsense of his electoral victory at the long run. And that is what is happening now.
Okay, now, elder statesman Olabode George has called on the president to please caution your minister, Nyesom Wike. He is the one causing problem in our party. And Bode George seems to be the only elder statesman talking now. When you talk about factions, we have 2 NWCs in the PDP. We have 2 BOTs in the PDP. We have 2 everything in the PDP. And this thing is devolving to the state level. In those states where they say, look, we have dissolved the party structure, you have 2 factions of the state working committee, of the NEC, of the party, and all of that. You don't see any miracle coming in the way of PDP ahead of 2027. You don't see a rebound.
Like I said,
like the president steps in and says, okay, let us solve this problem.
It will be the miracle of the century.
Okay.
If we find rapprochement towards this coming election in PDP. Because even in the states, in most states now, what to say is one leg in, one leg out.
Apart from one leg in, one leg out.
Most of the PDP stalwarts across the states, they are now romancing ADC. They are just keeping PDP until this crisis is resolved. And if it doesn't get to a point that it's resolvable, then they move en masse. Nobody in PDP is actually committed to PDP in his or heart of heart as we speak, because they know that there is an agenda, and that agenda, the person fueling this agenda has so much strength in terms of authority, legitimacy in the government of the day, which had set out to denigrate for his own political advantage. And that is Wike. And Wike is not letting us steam.
Is it not curious that PDP at last count has 8 governors, and all these 8 governors, despite their deep pockets, allow Wike to call the shots within the PDP? Is it not curious?
What is the level of the deep pocket we are talking about? No businessman will want to invest in a shark-infested water. You want to invest where you are sure there is profit. And that is also the game in politics. You must ensure that whatever you are putting in, you are reaping it. It may not come in terms of naira and kobo, but the leverage of power you hold would make you feel comfortable that you have spent so amount of money, even when the return on your investment, quote and unquote, is less than what you invested. But at least you have authority and you have power. And that is enough compensation. So, those 8 governors, they are not sure of the future of the party. And so they are not going to put their money in that party. And that's what you see. Because every governor now is, except for those who are not contesting again, that are serving out their second term. But for those who are still looking up to having another shot that is allowed by the Constitution, they will not want to fritter their resources on a party that is not sure of even fielding candidates, a party that is factionalized. And it's good for these governors because one of the electoral laws says that there must be a crisis in a particular party before you can move from that party to another party. And at state level and at national level, there is crisis in PDP, there is crisis in the Labour Party. So it's a choice to remain where there is fire on the roof, or you go to a place where you are sure there is peace.
Okay, now, in the course of your intervention, you said that in some of the states that even those that have stayed back in the PDP are one leg in,
one leg out.
And you specifically mentioned that most of them are romancing with the ADC.
Yes.
Now, does it look like the ADC is going to offer a viable alternative to the PDP in the coming days?
But as at this time, if there's going to be any opposition in 2027, ADC looks more like it than the other two parties.
Okay.
The Labour Party and the PDP. Because that crisis of having two henchmen in the two parties is not going to end until after that election. Because those who will make it impossible for it to end are there. I don't see a Wike turning down the script that he has acted almost 70%, and then leave the 30%
backing off,
and then back. No. He's not going to do that, because if Wike tumbles out of that office, FCT minister, and he runs into the bad book of the current administration, hyenas are waiting to devour him, and he is mindful of that. So he's going to act that script, and he's going to make sure that whatever is required to make sure that he delivers, he will do, and that is what he's doing.
Okay, now before we move into the second topic of discussion, I would like for us to talk briefly about the ADC, because you mentioned the ADC in the course of this conversation. Now, do you see the ADC being rancor-free from now up until after their primaries, ahead of the 2027 general election? Because you see, Abechi said, look, I'm not stepping down for anybody. You know, I want to be on the ballot. And he has formally, in fact, even joined the ADC before Atiku Abubakar and Nasiru El-Rufai. He has refused to step down. Peter Obi is waiting in the wings. Nobody knows where he is. He's neither here nor there. But El-Rufai said, look, Peter Obi is going to join us, and he will join hands with us to push out Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Do you see the ADC running through a rancor-free primaries and all of that? We are trying to measure the strength of the ADC.
Yeah. You see, the fact that I said ADC has some level of strength,
okay,
as at this point, does not mean that ADC is rancor-free.
Okay.
Because the people they met on ground before coming en masse to ADC, they are still there. And at the last count, I have not heard or read any report that those suits had been withdrawn, challenging the legitimacy of this new membership and the leadership they imposed on that party. So, but the optics looks bright that maybe with the stature of an Atiku, who is, of course, bent on clinching the ticket, and that if there's anybody in that party that can struggle with Atiku in getting the ticket of ADC for 2027 election. So, Atiku in there, and an El-Rufai who is banking on the emergence of Atiku, I doubt if they will not be able to muzzle those people for them to settle out of court before 2027. That is barring all odds. But this posturing, I'm going to slug it out. Amaechi does not even have the stature of a president in Nigeria. So it will end up...
What do you mean by the stature of a president?
What is his political... I've forgotten the word I want to use. That the value.
Okay.
What is his political value at national level? What has he done?
Okay.
Maybe speaker.
But are you aware that?
Speaker,
are you aware that he was the first
minister.
runner? He was the first runner up the APC primaries in 2022.
And what was the gap?
But he did better than others. Bearing any last minute decision,
who are the others?
Who are the others? Ahmed Lawan was there.
Ahmed Lawan listening to voice of.
Mm-hmm. And back of Oshibajo was there. He beat Oshibajo.
Oshibajo, you know that Oshibajo is a Lilliputian when it comes to presidential race in any political
He has a lot
party.
of clout in the South.
What
Former
clout?
minister,
His
former
structure.
governor, former speaker, and
You
all
see,
of that.
you see, for you to be a president in this country, you would have gone beyond certain thresholds in terms of optics. For instance, you must have very strong handshake across the Niger. What I mean
As
is
an
even if you are
individual
coming-
or the party structure itself? Because if
no,
you...
I'm coming to the party structure.
Okay.
I'm talking about the personality.
Okay.
You would have very strong handshake across the Niger.
Like Yaradua had or what?
Yeah, Yaradua had.
No,
like
I'm asking you,
MKO.
did Yaradua, did he have that handshake across the Niger?
Yaradua leveraged on his brother's legacy.
And Obasanjo's...
As the is it PDM?
Okay,
You know,
yes.
Yaradua
branch
formed
of the
PDM.
PDP, yes.
And Atiku was part of the PDM.
Of the PDM.
And so that was why even for them to harvest PDM, that was why they had to pluck Atiku, having won the governorship race, to come and become vice president as part of compensation. Because PDM was very strong. If
Yaradua had relied on Atiku's influence, because recall that was the year Atiku left PDP and went to ACN.
You see,
So apparently,
wasn't
Atiku disagreed with the Yaradua candidacy.
Atiku was not holding the lever of PDM.
Okay.
But because of his stature in PDM, that was what influenced his being picked as running mate to Obasanjo, because they wanted a political structure in the north that can be subsumed under PDP at that time that would give them leverage. And of course, when you want to harvest, it's just like if you are going to PDP, ADC now, you know, you rely on these gladiators, no matter how weak they could be, how strong they could be, so that those people within the party would embrace what you are bringing. Just like ACN and AMPP with CPC, they came together. The block of CPC was enough leverage for Buhari, and the block of ACN was enough for Tinubu to bring that party to become that formidable at that time.
Anyway,
so it was PDM, right. You know. So for now, Amaechi is a non-starter as a presidential.
Okay, so Amaechi is not a factor.
It's not a factor in the next
ADC,
election.
In ADC.
If you want to talk about factors in the next election, as far as
in
ADC is concerned,
talk about Atiku.
You talk about Atiku, you talk about P2B. Those are the two.
In ADC?
Yes.
Anyway, let's see how it pans out. I think the primaries will take place sometime before July next year.
Of course.
Now, let's get into it. The Senate witnessed mild drama on Tuesday, that's yesterday, when Senate President Godswill Akpabio halted plenary shortly after taking over from Deputy Senate President Barau Jibrin. Akpabio summoned Senate Leader Okoyemi Bamidele for a private discussion, prompting several other senators to gather around the Senate President's seat, where their huddle stalled proceedings for over 30 minutes, leading to noise, side conversation, and general disorder in the chamber. Senator Danjuma Goje later rose to caution Akpabio, describing the pause for private consultations as unparliamentary. Citing Order 55 of the Senate rules, he argued that such meetings should not interrupt an active session and advised that the Senate should go on recess if a break was necessary. He insisted that the discussion should have taken place outside the chamber. Akpabio responded that the senators were discussing an urgent assignment scheduled for 1 p.m. at the presidential villa. He invited Goje to join the meeting, but Goje declined, laughing as he stated he had no interest in participating. Dele, what do you make of the mild altercation between Akpabio and Goje? Unparliamentary, according to Goje. You witnessed it, you saw it. Yeah. You know, what happened yesterday. What do you make of it? Let's paint a scenario. Let's paint a picture now. Barau Jibrin, the Deputy Senate President, is presiding. All of a sudden, Godswill Akpabio saunters into the chambers, displaces Jibrin, takes over his seat, invites the Senate leader, and a few other senators gather around them, and they are discussing in hushed tones, in whispers, and all of that.
Why the session was on?
The plenary is
yes.
on, and you have other senators waiting. Now, it took the bold initiative, the bold action of a Goje to say, Senate President, what they are doing is unparliamentary. How can you just halt a meeting like what do you make out of it? What picture of the Senate does it paint before you?
You know, when you give a small man a big office, what happens? That big office will shrink to his size. But when you give a big man a small office, what does he do? It expands, he expands that office. And that is just what played out. You know, momentarily they forgot what they were carrying. They forgot where they were. They saw that plenary session as a party affair where they can just regroup, talk, in hush tone and do all those shenanigans. And that is to show you the quality of leaders we prop up in this country. A sober, and I don't want to use the words that may sound, but a sober and highly conscious person will know that a plenary session is on with the full glare of the camera, clear lights, and it's just like you are holding a management meeting, and then 1, 2, or 3 people just decided to split that meeting and cause distraction.
Or you are holding an AGM.
AGM
of a multinational.
Yes, and then some people just cluster around while the meeting was on. And
with the chairman of the company
is seated, and then maybe somebody is giving the annual report, maybe the company secretary. Is the high.
And the cameras are beaming into the whole world.
That's what I'm saying. World. They forgot that they are not in their private rooms. They forgot that they are not in PDP secretariat or APC secretariat.
And you know what? You know the urgent assignment that they had at the presidential villa, launching of the Armed Forces emblem.
So is that an urgent thing?
According to Akpabio,
that's the question you ask yourself. This is a yearly thing since 1971 or 72.
Armed Forces Remembrance.
Armed Forces Remembrance Day, celebrating heroes.
Okay.
That fell in the cause of defending the territorial integrity of this country. And that is where you have veterans of war coming with their uniform, aged, with their medals and all that. And then, is it something that is just happening for the first time?
What does that speak to how we prioritize our issues in Nigeria?
I've always said, the speed at which the two arms of the National Assembly, at which they pass some bills, first reading, second reading. In fact, I've witnessed here where in 24 hours it passed first, second, and third reading. That they had to take it the following day for accent. But the bills that concern Nigerians, the welfare of the average Nigerian, the welfare of those who are downtrodden, that they don't have voice, voiceless people, lingers on the floor of the National Assembly. You see, when you begin to play politics of self, when you begin to play politics, myopic politics that is not looking into the future, this is the kind of thing you get. Look at all those things they do at the National Assembly. Do you know that if you do an aggregation of bills that have passed through the National Assembly, both House of Reps and Senate, you discover that in the Senate, out of 109 members, you hardly can get up to 60 members that have pushed any bill. And this is the third year.
Now, talking about the third year, now let's turn the searchlight on the personality of Akpabio himself, who has been in that office for 3 years. What do you think are his major achievements? Does he have any high points? What are his high points? What has he achieved?
As a Senate President?
As a Senate President.
His antecedent from the past?
As a Senate President in the past 2.5 years. Can you think of any?
One achievement I can remember is that he made good his promise when it was inaugurated.
Okay.
He said, anything the executive arm brings to the table, we will approve. And he has not deviated from that.
Okay, so that counts for him. That counts for him as an achievement.
That's after all, he made a promise and he was able to fulfill the promise up until now. If he was going to change, maybe tomorrow.
Okay, now something happened today at plenary when they were screening Christopher Musa, the retired general who's just been appointed Minister of Defense following the resignation of Badaru. And I think a senator stood up and said, you should just take a bow and leave. And Akpabio stood up and said, how can you ask this man to take a bow and leave under this condition? I mean, 200 schoolgirls have been kidnapped, have been tortured. Donald Trump is on our neck to do what is right. And this man has just been appointed Minister of Defense, and you're asking him to take a bow. Shouldn't Nigerians ask him questions?
What is
so that they could give
bring to the
Nigerians
table?
Hope and all of that? Could that count as a high point for Godswill Akpabio? I mean, this is the first time that he's coming out like this. Can we score on that point?
Can we score? No. Because the point is, he just assisted Musa to come and tell us what he's going to do that is different from others that had occupied that position in the past. But on the other side, there was no way they would not pass Musa and tell him that it's okay for the job. You understand? But the point is, the legitimate thing that should have been done at that instance was for Musa to reel out what he's likely to do against the backdrop of this renewed onslaught on Nigerians by insurgents. Before we came to the studio, I was watching a particular video where bandits were raining dollars on one of the mothers of the bandits. In fact, the dollar got to a heap.
Is it a skit? Is it a skit or what?
It's not a skit. Okay. You will see those guys that they are real bandits, raining dollars. And the mother was just there, and one other woman was sitting beside maybe the sister, praising them and singing their praise. So it is incumbent on the Senate to have asked that question that, look, somebody resigned, and there was no much impact from that person as Minister of Defense. As a matter of fact, Nigerians didn't know that a Badaru was in that office. Matawale was the one that was up there for everybody to see.
I think Badaru had health challenges. Because at a point he was in Dubai.
Why would you appoint somebody who had health challenges?
I think it developed in the. I'm not making excuses for him, but I think it developed in the course of service.
The point is, before you become a minister or somebody being appointed, even at board level, before you are made the DG of a parastatal or anybody, you should go through medical tests. And comprehensive medical test certified by a qualified lawyer, a doctor that is in government hospital, not in a private clinic. You should do that. And so it's just the screening of DSS that qualifies anybody to be minister. And the moment you discover that this man is bedeviled by health challenges, you replace him. It's not as if you have done anything different from what you should do by replacing him, because the work must go on. You can't stop the work from going on.
Okay, all right. I think for me, that makes a lot of Nigerians may see what Godswill Akpabio did today as a high point, in service, when he said, look, no, this man shouldn't go. Let him come and talk to Nigerians and give them hope. Now, let's get into the last topic of discussion. Manpower shortage may delay NSCDC's VIP protection rollout. The Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, may be forced to delay the launch of its VIP protection program due to a major shortage of personnel. Well, according to officials, the Corps is currently understaffed, limiting its capacity to offer specialized security services for high-profile individuals. The initiative, designed to strengthen protection for government officials and visiting dignitaries, was expected to commence this quarter. Well, authorities are now considering fresh recruitment and intensive training measures to close the manpower gap and keep the program on track for implementation. Dele, are we going back to where we are coming from? We have shortage of police personnel. We say, okay, pull them out from VIP protection. We pull them into society. We say, okay, let's go to NSCDC. And we hear from NSCDC, no, we are understaffed. So we are going to look for more staff for NSCDC. What kind of juggling is all of this? Does it look like
the point here again is that the responsibility of civil defense is to protect critical government infrastructure. And that's what they set out to do. Okay. And they were trained along that line. Okay. They were not trained to give backup
to human infrastructure.
To human infrastructure.
Okay, because I was thinking if we could describe VIPs as human infrastructure.
Yes.
Critical national infrastructure. Human infrastructure.
You understand? And so if you are now going to transform them to bodyguards, then they have to undergo specialized training. Do you know that majority of civil defense personnel don't bear arms?
Yes, they don't.
Only a few of them. You understand?
In fact, they have more office staff than field workers.
You understand? So now you have to train them on weapon handling. And you have to train them on how to manage the VIPs. There used to be, I don't know if they have cancelled it now, with the withdrawal of these policemen, SPU, Special Protection Units. Yes. They wear this light blue beret, you know. Those were specialized people trained to be the backman for big men. And big men that are politically exposed. Not pastors, not imams, not Yahoo boys. Those ones, how can you be using state resources to protect somebody that is dealing with others? And of course, these men of God, when you run to them, they'll say, God is enough shield for you. Yet, they are quick to run to government to give them policemen. And you see, it became so fashionable for them. They don't use regular policemen. They feel inferior when somebody behind them is a regular policeman. So it must be a mobile policeman. Whereas these mobile policemen were trained to quell riots and to manage riots.
Riot policemen. Their name started as riot policemen.
Anti-riot policemen.
Anti-riot policemen.
Now, this set of people, if you look closely too, for you to see how terribly bastardized the police force is. Majority of those people you see with well-starched mobile police uniform are not actually mobile policemen. It's the VIP that will go and give them money to sew that uniform and wear. Because if you want to know a real mobile policeman, he must belong to a squadron. And that squadron badge is on their shoulder here. It will include that eagle feather and that baton. And then they will write it. If it's Mopo 17, it will be there. Yeah. Anybody that is not wearing that badge and calls himself a mobile policeman, challenge him and say, look, you are not. How many of them went to Gosa for training? How many of them went to Ila? When Tafa Balogun became the IG, he replicated what was in Gosa, in Ila, Osun State, his hometown. Those are the two places where they trained mobile policemen. How many of them went through it? Policemen that cannot withstand tear gas, and they are calling themselves mobile policemen. Some have even abdicated their responsibility as policemen.
So now, in the light of this and in the face of this, do you think that
why are they panicking?
Saying that the NSCDC cannot fit into that mood?
What about you and I that we don't have security? Are we not surviving?
No, we are not. You know, since Trump came up with the CPC designation, we have different CPCs now. Someone said here we have judges of particular concern. We also have politicians of particular concern. So you and I don't have PCs after
we don't have it.
You know, so we don't have anything of particular concern. Apparently, that is why, you know, we are not factored in for protection and all of that.
Maybe we should apply.
Maybe we should apply and get one PC.
I get one PC.
After our names. Who said, Gowon said he doesn't like small letters after his name. That was why he went to do a PhD.
Yes.
They say he doesn't like, when they say
MSc,
no, PNC, all those past staff college and all of that. Gowon said he doesn't like it, so he had to go to university in London, UK to get a PhD.
Yes.
Then in 30 seconds, can we get your concluding thoughts on the issue that we talked about?
You see, PDP should find a way of getting their act right, because we need opposition to make that election interesting, and we also need opposition to give the incumbent party in power a run for its money, so that they will know that they won't take Nigerians for a joke. Then, on the issue of this Akpabio needs to sit up. He behaves like somebody who does not know the weight is carrying in the National Assembly. This is number 3 man, for crying out loud. He should know the limit of how he uses that power on the floor of the National Assembly. At least to respect us that we've surrendered our sovereignty to him and many others in the National Assembly.
Okay, now before we leave, Daniel Buala said that, look, Nigerians should monitor compliance, with the VIP withdrawals. Do you have any word for him in 30 seconds?
No, we'll keep watching, but who do we report to?
Okay.
Is it the IG? Tell us. Do I have access to the IG? They should tell us now. Give us the phone numbers to call if we see Chukuma Okoro with a policeman behind him.
Yes. So you report.
Yes, so that I can report.
I must say a very big thank you to you, Dele Fanimo. This is where we have to end this conversation.